Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. I'm just loving these cartoons here. And I love showing them off when I find one that I think is cool. So, all right. Hello. If you're new to the channel, my name is Connor. Nice to meet you, sir or madam. I like to learn about history through YouTube recommendations. The original link to the video will be at the top of the description below. And right under that will be the link to the Discord. Just click on it. It'll send you right over if you have Discord downloaded. Most people do. If not, download it. Yeah, just makes it easier for me to interact with you guys and, you know, see video recommendations and just hang out, whatever. Love to have you. Pull up a chair. Join the family. Fun time. We're nice. We're nice. Why did the Swedish Empire collapse? Knowledgia. Great channel. Let's go. Let's find out. Okay.
Today's video is sponsored by NordVPN. More about that later in the video. We are in Northern Europe. Here in the 12th century, the Kingdom of Sweden was still struggling with its dynastic problems.
12th?
We are in Northern Europe. Here in the 12th century, the Kingdom of Sweden was still struggling with its dynastic problems.
If you're not ready to learn, get out. I don't have time for you.
Clans fought for power, and in the final part of this period, Bjelbo dynasty...
I'm such an idiot. I have to shut up.
We are in Northern Europe.
All right.
Here in the 12th century, the Kingdom of Sweden was still struggling with its dynastic problems. Clans fought for power, and in the final part of this period, Bjelbo dynasty was founded. This was an important step, and will be the base of what will happen with Sweden in the future.
Okay.
This dynasty consolidated a pre-Kalmar union to a strong state. King Magnus IV also ruled over Norway and Scania. Following the Black Death, this union was severely weakened, and Scania was lost to Denmark. During the early Middle Ages, the Swedish state also expanded to control Norrland and Finland. This expansion created awareness and tensions in the Russian states, starting an era of rivalry which will continue through the next centuries. After the Black Death and internal power struggles, Queen Margaret I of Denmark united the Nordic countries in the Union of Kalmar at the end of the 14th century, in 1397, with the approval of the Swedish nobility. This was a personal union and existed here from 1397 to 1523. This union joined under a single monarch and the three northern kingdoms of Denmark, Sweden, and Norway, having also territories in today's Finland and overseas dependencies like Iceland, Greenland, or the Faroe and Northern Islands. However, as in other cases of unions, due to continual tension and issues about power and disagreements within the countries and within the union gradually led to open conflict between the Swedes and the Danes in the 15th century. It was clear that this structure cannot exist anymore, and it disintegrated in the early 16th century. This was the beginning of a long-lived rivalry between Denmark and Sweden. In the 16th...
Okay, that answers a big question I had, which was when all this beef between Denmark and Sweden started.
Century, a guy named Gustav Vasa.
So you guys were all like one sort of... So Finland, parts of Finland, or most of it, Sweden, Denmark, it said like the Faroe Islands and stuff, Norway, were all have part of a single Scandinavian history from the beginning, and then Sweden breaks apart, Denmark and Norway...
for Sweden independence, because the Catholic bishops had supported the Danish king.
One second. Sorry. Okay. Gustav.
Rivalry between Denmark and Sweden. In the 16th century, a guy named Gustav Vasa fought for Sweden independence. Because the Catholic bishops had supported the Danish king, Christian II, Gustavus used the Protestant Reformation movement to curb the power of the church and
so there are like
King Gustavus
50 different
in
Gustavs.
1523 after he overthrown the Danish king.
Okay.
Here in the north lived few people compared to the rest of Europe. mainly due to harsher conditions. It's believed that in the 17th century, despite having around 1 million inhabitants, Sweden emerged to have greater foreign influence in the region, and it became stronger and stronger after winning wars against Denmark, Norway, the Holy Roman Empire,
30 Years'
Russia,
War,
and the Commonwealth of Poland-Lithuania. Its contributions during the 30 Years' War, Gustavus Adolphus helped
he was amazing.
determine the political and the religious balance of power in Europe. In this time, the Swedish kingdom emerged as a European great power. Before the emergence of the Swedish Empire, Sweden was a poor and scarcely populated country on the fringe of European civilization, with no significant power or reputation.
I just want to say, and a few of my mods on Discord are Swedish, and so they've taught me a lot about Swedish history. I always thought of Great Britain and France. I always just viewed, maybe this is just an American part, we always just viewed them as the big guys. Maybe Portugal and Spain and the Netherlands a bit before, Spain a bit before, but coming like the 1700s, 1800s, even before that, during this time too, I didn't think of Sweden, and I never really thought of them as this great power, but clearly, especially in the 30 Years' War, it reminded me of, in the Rome videos I watched, of where even if you're a little bit outnumbered, Caesar's forces and Roman forces were just better equipped and better trained, and so you needed to have a larger force than them. And I got the feeling that they were that force in some people say France might have been better than Sweden, but Sweden just seemed to have the most professional army, and I did not know that, and I want to learn more about it. The Northern War too, Great Northern War.
Of the Swedish Empire,
this guy was awesome.
Sweden was a poor and scarcely populated country on the fringe of European civilization, with no significant power or reputation. Sweden rose to prominence on a continental scale during the tenure of King Gustavus Adolphus, seizing territories from Russia and Poland-Lithuania in multiple conflicts, including the 30 Years' War. The expansion was visible, and at that time, it was the greatest power of the North. But they expanded elsewhere, too. Not many know that Sweden had their colonies outside.
And they have the greatest shape of any country, of any territory. Just the manliness of that.
North. War. The expansion was visible, and at that time, it was the greatest power of the North.
Sorry.
But they expanded elsewhere, too. Not many know that Sweden had their colonies outside Europe. As many countries at that time, they tried to create trade posts and finally establish a colony in North America at the lower reaches of the Delaware River during the 30 Years' War. A colony in North America at the lower reaches tried to create trade posts and finally establish a colony in North America at the lower reaches of the Delaware River.
Melkor, Lennox Heaven, never told me about
during
this.
The 30 finally establish a colony in North America at the lower reaches of the Delaware River during the 30 Years' War. Another colony was founded in 1650 on the Gulf of Guinea. This was their attempt, but the colonies will be lost, mainly seized and taken by the Dutch or Denmark. At the end of the 30 Years' War, Sweden was at its biggest extent during this time under the rule of Charles Gustav.
I thought they conquered more of Poland. No?
The Swedish Empire had the largest influence in the Baltic Sea. This was their peak. The extravagance
I thought
of
they got bigger. I thought they got a bit of a Polish-Lithuania part too.
Adolphus's two immediate successors, Christina and Charles Gustav, caused great difficulties for the new empire. Bad in administration, Christina's financial extravagance brought the state almost to bankruptcy. The financial difficulties caused public unrest and revolts, and this led to her abdication. The success in previous wars came at a cost, a financial one. The Swedish people looked to a new king to address the problem of too much power vested in the nobility. Even if there wasn't like in previous years, if we speak about leadership, the empire will have great success in the next years, still having a professional army. In 1655, in the Second Northern War, Charles Gustav of Sweden invaded and occupied western Poland-Lithuania, the eastern half of which was already occupied by Russia. This was a huge victory for Sweden, once more showing that despite their problems, they can still be a major actor. But this wasn't for long. Sweden didn't focus on wars afterwards, but more to internal problems, on making reforms and modernize.
It seems like Sweden would be a perfect country, especially at extent now, to become a very large naval power, because similar to the United Kingdom, United Kingdom is an island, but I mean, this is pretty much an island when you have to go this far up north to start going back down. I mean, obviously it's not an island, you know, Poland and Lithuania here, but just Sweden and like, what's this capital? Oslo, Helsinki, Stockholm. You'd think that they'd be a bigger naval power, like the British.
Even if small conflicts existed,
Maybe I'm wrong.
by the end of the century, no major land losses existed. The following period of peace allowed Charles XI of Sweden to reform and stabilize the realm. He consolidated the finances of the crown by the Great Reduction of 1680. Further changes were made in finance, commerce, church, government.
Sorry, I'm going to rewind. I just want to do a technical difficulty check. Terrified of it. How you guys doing? All right, let's go.
The following
My
period
mods
of
have
peace
explaining
allowed
to
Charles XI of Sweden to reform and stabilize the realm. He consolidated the finances of the crown by the Great Reduction of... The following period of peace allowed Charles XI of Sweden to reform and stabilize the realm. He consolidated the finances of the crown by the Great Reduction of 1680. Further changes were made in finance, commerce, church, government, education, and other areas.
This is such a good channel.
Because in the past, Sweden managed to win wars against its neighbors despite their successes, those neighbors became enemies. After Charles XI's death, the throne was inherited by his underage son, Charles XII. After a brief regency, he was declared to be of age to rule.
He only
3
lived to
years later,
21?
in 1700, Denmark, Poland, and Russia, the underage son, Charles XII. After a brief regency, he was declared to be of age to rule. 3 years later, in 1700, Denmark, Poland, and Russia, the countries that had lost most territory to Sweden, jointly declared war.
Whenever this music happens, I love it. Whenever this music happens in Knowledgia, stuff's about to go down. Ready? I'm going back 10
Age
seconds.
to rule. 3 years
Ready?
later, in 1700, Denmark, Poland, and Russia, the countries that had lost most
Right here.
territory to Sweden, jointly declared war.
Love it.
This will be known as the Great Northern War, 1700 to 1721.
Nice, it's going to
Because
cover
Sweden
it.
was in a weak position, a coalition led by the Tsardom of Russia successfully contested the supremacy of the Swedish Empire in northern, central, and eastern
And
Europe.
what's Prussia
The
doing?
initial leaders of the anti-Swedish alliance were Peter I of Russia, Frederick IV
Sorry, I'm not. Maybe Prussia isn't a big power, or it's still a bunch of like Holy Roman.
of Denmark. Of the anti-Swedish alliance were Peter I of Russia, Frederick IV of Denmark, Norway, and Augustus II, the Strong of Saxony, Poland, Lithuania. The war began when an alliance, sensing an opportunity as Sweden was ruled by the young Charles XII, declared war on the Swedish Empire and launched a threefold attack on Swedish Holstein-Gottorp, Swedish Livonia, and Swedish Ingria. Sweden parried the Danish and Russian attacks at Trevendal, August 1700, and Narva, November 1700, respectively, and in a counteroffensive, pushed Augustus II's forces through
Parried?
the attacks at Trevendal and Swedish Ingria. Sweden parried the Danish
Is it saying parried, as in like a parry, like with a sword, or parry?
and Russian attacks at Trevendal,
Let me know what that
August
is, please.
1700, and Narva, November 1700, respectively, and in a counteroffensive, pushed Augustus II's forces through the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth to Saxony. Again, despite their difficulties, Frederick VI and Augustus II were defeated by Sweden under Charles XII and forced out of the alliance in 1700 and 1706, respectively, but rejoined it in 1709 after the defeat of Charles XII at the Battle of Poltava. After
Ooh, I like
Poltava,
that.
the anti-Swedish coalition revived, and subsequently Hanover and Prussia joined it. The remaining Swedish forces and plague-stricken areas south and east of the Baltic Sea were evicted, with the last city, Sweden proper.
I'm so
was
sorry, guys.
se-
I've been terrible with pausing, but I have to.
Charles XII, and forced out of the alliance. Lithuanian Commonwealth to Saxony. Again, despite their difficulties, Frederick VI and Augustus II were defeated by Sweden under Charles XII and forced out of the alliance in 1700 and 1706 respectively, but rejoined it in 1709 after the defeat of Charles XII at the Battle of Poltava. After Poltava, the anti-Swedish coalition revived, and subsequently Hanover and Prussia joined it. The remaining Swedish forces in plague-stricken areas south and east of the Baltic Sea were evicted, with the last city. Sweden proper was invaded from the west by Denmark, Norway, and from the east by Russia, which sought to have access to the east of the Baltic. Denmark, Norway, with the last city. Sweden proper was invaded from the west by Denmark, Norway, and from the east by Russia, which sought to have access to the Gulf of Finland.
You guys have a very Sweden and Norway, I believe, are very there are very little passes between them, right? Isn't it very mountainous pretty much all the way up along the Swedish-Norwegian border? So it would be difficult to move troops through.
Norway, and from the east by Russia, which sought to have access to the Gulf of Finland. Despite these setbacks, Charles twice tried to invade Norway to force Denmark-Norway out of the war again. On November 30th, 1718, King Charles XII was mortally wounded during a siege. With his death, Swedish war efforts mostly came to a halt, and peace was signed in 1721. Sweden would remain a regional power of varying success until the 19th century. Sweden 18, King Charles XII was mortally wounded during a siege. With his death, Swedish war efforts mostly came to a halt, and peace was signed in 1721. Sweden would remain a regional power of varying success until the 19th century, but the Great Northern War put an end to Sweden's time as a great power. Finland was lost to Russia.
Spoilers.
In 1809 after a war.
I was just
and
about
this was
to ask
followed
that.
by a union with Norway that will last for almost 100 years. But this is a topic for another video.
Damn.
Sweden managed to conquer important territories and to rule the northern regions of the continent, and with reforms, no major revolts and instabilities happened. But their collapse was mainly due to external conflicts, a low manpower compared to other states, a large Russia looking to expand more, and other neighbors seeking
You were surrounded
revenge
on all
combined with
sides.
a moment of weakness,
And then when things were going bad against you even more, Hanover, Prussia joined in.
created the scenario of their collapse. If in those periods to protect yourself, you would have needed guns, revenge, a large Russia looking to expand more, and other neighbors seeking revenge combined with a moment of weakness created the scenario of their collapse. If in those periods to protect yourself, you would have needed guns, manpower, strong tactics, and smart diplomacy in a Europe full of challenges and dangers. Nowadays, even if you can't see the dangers, it doesn't mean they don't exist, especially in
NordVPN.
online privacy.
Like, how much money do they give out a year or a month in ad revenue to every one of its sponsors, sponsorees? There and everything. I want to make sure there's nothing.
On Patreon. If you want to button to this episode.
Second Baltimore. All right, great video. Knowledgia, love it. Going up the ranks. Might be top 3 at this point. Top 5 at least. History or Epic History TV. It can't be bumped off unless I see someone really great. Awesome video. Melkor, Light X7. You have a lot of explaining to do. All right. No, you guys are great. See you guys next time. I'm going to come out with another video. Maybe after this or tomorrow. What's the date? 20th, 21st. Maybe one tomorrow. All right. See you guys next time. Hope you're doing well. I really do. Hope you are. If not, that sucks, but you'll be good soon. See ya.